Welcome to Vintage Radio Cafe. If you like watching an idiot wielding a soldering iron, you've come to the right place. In this episode, Ray explains how he almost got scammed by a fake seller before he completely restores a beautiful 1958 Blaupunkt Riviera vacuum tube radio. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. What could go wrong, right?
Hello everybody, welcome back. So as you can see, I have a new project on the bench. This is a 1958 Blaupunkt Riviera type number 2540 vacuum tube radio with a complement of 9 tubes. It's a AM FM, has 5 speakers, one on each side, the main woofer here, and 2 electrostatic tweeters. As you can see, it's beautiful. The condition is mint. When I got it, it was very dirty. It had been in a smoker's house at one point, obviously, from the color of the rags. When I started cleaning it, I just used dish soap and lukewarm water, and it came out beautiful. All the golden trimmings and all that. Blaupunkt made different versions of the same model, the same radio, with different names and different color scheme. They had theme. This one, called the Riviera, obviously has a nice Italian vibe to it. If you look at the Arkansas, it'll be darker, almost not black, but very dark brown wood, and has a different feel to it, but it's basically the same radio. Now, the plan is to completely redo the electronics inside. The owner told me it wasn't working, had been working for many years. In her view, it's only one or a couple of vacuum tubes that are gone. And I can tell you, I tested the tubes already, and out of the 9, 6 were not usable, 4 were dead, 2 were very weak, namely the outputs EL95s, and the 3 remaining one could still work, but if you know me, I'm going to change them all. And the plan is to use what I'll call the manual from Electronics Old and New. I'll use a manual's method, which is before putting power on it, really to test everything in the chassis, all the circuitry, and he really has a method that really speaks to me. I think it's the right way to do it, and he's got a lot of experience with radios in general, but especially the German models. So what he says is the Bible to me, and the way he goes about things is that he really starts by testing the circuit continuity and all that from the power supply. Then he does the audio, including the speakers, the output transformers, all that, without ever putting power. He tests the output transformer by using a signal generator, so at least he knows if there's continuity there, if the signal will go through. Then after that, he starts working on the radio section, the oscillator, and all that circuitry. Then he will move again forward to the mechanical parts, which in this case, the radio really needs a good cleanup. And you can tell just by listening at the ferrite antenna turning on its pivot, just how dry everything is inside. So this has to be done. Then he moves on to the cabinet. So in my case, exceptionally, this time around, I started with the cabinet because it had so little to do, and it just needed a good cleanup. The only physical damage that I can see on the outside is on this support panel for the push buttons. Push buttons are all fine, but there's 2 cracks here, and I can tell that the treble wheel is a little bit caved in. So I'm guessing Probably the whole chassis is a little bit lower on that side. Probably the grommets have dried up and they just compressed. There's something going on there. Those should be at the same height. So once it got banked with years, pushing the buttons didn't help. I can feel the flex here. So there's something that's raised too high here or too low there, which causes pressure. So the plan when I get to that part will be to take it apart and clean it really good to get rid of the muck, the black between the lines, and re-glue it. So hopefully it won't be as visible. So before I move on, show you the backside, the interior, and start working on it, I really need to tell you the backstory of this radio, because it's something special. This radio was posted on Marketplace, the Facebook page there, 2 weeks ago, from a nice woman, an elderly woman who lost her husband 2 years ago, and the radio belonged to him, which he inherited from his own father. So it's been in the family for many years, and she posted it for $60 2 weeks ago. I responded. I couldn't believe it. Okay, even if it was dirty, I could tell it was in very good condition. $60, in my opinion, wasn't enough money. I wrote her a message the very moment I saw it, with no real hope, to be honest. I thought it would have been sold already. So I didn't get a response that night. Only the next day somebody else answered, and I gathered from that the owner wasn't too handy with a computer. I don't think she even owns one. So we were going through a middle woman, and that woman gave me her number for the owner, and I called her, and it was still available. So I got there, and I gave her $100 for it. And on the way back home, I still felt lousy. I thought it was worth more money than that. But as always, when you buy something that old, you're always taking a risk. I don't know if it's going to work. It might not work. It might be $100, thrown out the window, which I doubt. But we'll see. The other side of this story is that the next morning, since I didn't have an answer the night before, the next morning I went to see and to check again on Marketplace if the radio had been sold, because sometimes people sell stuff and they forget to remove the ad. Sure enough, the ad was still there, but furthermore, there was a second ad for the same radio. I can tell you it was the same radio because I could see the same serial number, only there was more pictures, some showing the inside, and that person was asking $600 for it. So I wrote that person out of curiosity. I just wrote to that person, and I never got a reply to this day. Once I got with the owner, I asked if she knew that person. She said no. I asked if she asked anybody from the family or a friend member, a family member or a friend, if she asked for somebody to sell it for her, and she said no way. I'm moving out. The house is for sale. I have to move out quickly. I put a price in order to sell quickly. It's okay with me. It's fine. So that's when I gave her $100, and she was very emotional. Let's put it this way. And so the point I want to make, first of all, guys, when you find rare finds like that in good condition, and you know in your heart that the price is too low, don't cheap out. Be kind to people. Give to others. The person is almost giving you something. She's passing along, years of memories, and most times, very good equipment and audio gear. So don't cheap out. Second thing, well, if you're watching the video and you're the person that put the ad, somebody from the family or whatever, thinking you were probably going to get away with buying the radio off of that nice woman, and trying to keep the money for yourself, well, you know who you are, and shame on you. Shame on you. You're lucky I'm retired. I was a police officer for 30 years, folks like you, I must have arrested like 100. That's fraud, my friend. She never gave you permission to sell the radio in her name. Okay, that's my rant. So without further ado, let me just move in closer for you guys, and we'll talk about the front plate of a radio, and then we'll move on taking it apart. Okay, so here's a closer shot of the faceplate and all the buttons, and as you can see, all this part is pretty much standard. That's what you get with those kinds of radios. There's an off button. This is for the phono, long wave, the AM, and to activate the ferrite antenna, which is only active along with the AM. There's the short wave and the FM. The buttons I'm not used with. Okay, the bass is all, it's pretty standard. Hi-fi I've seen before. The quality of the sound. The Germans really, the engineers, they really worked hard on the tone shaping. But now here's solo in 3D. From what I can see on the schematic, I think the mid-range on each side become active or more active here. I'm not sure what the 3D does. It's probably something equivalent to the loudness. I'll have to check the schematic and have a listen when it's working. The damages, let me try to zoom in a little bit more. Yeah, as you can see, the cracks here, they're pretty bad, but they look worse because of all the dust inside. That's why they're so dark. So I'm hoping I can clean this. The other part I wanted to show you was let me move back a little. Yeah. As you can see here, the two dial, the pots there for the bass. Maybe you can see here, more or less bass, and this one for treble. They're not the same height. This one is lower, this one is higher. So like I said before, I think the chassis is probably crooked on the base, on the wooden base for some reason. Either that or the shaft of this wheel has been bent downwards. We'll have to see. There's also another crack right here on the ferrite antenna button. Yeah. Let me reframe that. Right here. It's pretty open, it's pretty bad. It's like half a millimeter open. Something is either dirty, rubbing. It's scratchy. But this being said, let's move in here. And I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but yeah, might need more light for that. Just want to show you that the tuner string is still working. So yeah, it's very subtle, but it's here because the glass is so dirty on the other side. You can barely see it moving, maybe like that. You see it? It's right here. 800 now on the AM. 700 now. Right here. And this other one, the outside one, will move the FM. So the FM is on the 100 now. 98. 100. 98. Bit noisy. I think it needs to be lubricated, but that's about it. Okay, let me show you the cabinet on all the sides. Now here I'm showing you the radio from a distance so you get a better idea of its size. My bench is a 5-foot table and it takes most of it, as you can see. So what I want to show you is all the sides, and it's weird doing a video about the condition of a radio before restoring it, but I just have to. It's almost perfect. I'll show you the little defects on the cabinet. So you see the grill cloth, they don't appear to be the same color because of the different light that I have here. There's some daylight and some LEDs, so that explains the difference. I did raise the front so you could see more of the color of the front grille. This is on the side. As you can see from all the reflections on the top, it's damn perfect, almost perfect. And here, it's the only scratch I have. I'll try to fix this maybe with a little bit of varnish. I'll put some tape so it doesn't spill over. I'll try to do something with that. But the idea is not to mess it up. There's a few light things. Okay. But my point is, when you get a radio like that, it would be, I mean, I know nobody in their right mind that would start to strip it and stain it and revarnish or re-lacquer it again. You have to leave it alone at this point. The logos, I can't decide if they are actually bronze or if it's a paint. It's just pot metal with some paint on it. I did clean them a little bit, but I'll have to, remove them from the front. And once I have it in my hand, I'll decide what I can do with them. Same for the Blaupunkt here. I think it's hard to notice, it's hard to read. And I don't know if I can get the shiny parts to shine more, maybe with some Brasso. I don't know if there's paint or there's actually metal there and some paint in between. I'll have to, really see it, really have it in my hands to evaluate. And like I said before, the golden trims are beautiful. Is it in focus? It's absolutely, absolutely gorgeous. So not much to do. Okay. Hard to focus for some reason with the iPhone today. So not much to do on the cabinet side of things. The exterior. The inside is another story, but still not that bad. Okay. Now you have the interior. So here's the chassis, I should say. And now you have a good look at the speakers. So the actual statics are there on each side. I have the woofer here. Must be a 9 or a 10 inch. And the mid-range on each side. Going to just a little more light here. To the output transformer, it's pretty complex. There's a lot of caps and resistors there. You'll have the gang tuners. The wheel there. The string seems to be, or the strings, I should say, there's more than one, seem to be all there. This will be the FM section with the ECC85 with the isolation can for it. And the rest of it is mounted on a board, which I find very cool. So it's not all point to point. Many of the components are mounted on the board. So from the underside, I should be able to replace fairly easily the capacitors and or any resistors that would need. And power supply section is right here. So I can only see one fuse here, and that's the only part I tested. The contacts for the mains and for the fuse were so gummed up, not corroded. There's no rust, there's no corrosion, no white stuff, no green stuff, but it was so gummed up, I had no continuity. I mean, I would remove the fuse, try to get continuity, and I didn't have any. So it wasn't a case where you could just use the Q-tips with the oxid. I really had to use some Brasso and some fine steel wool to get it really clean and get a good continuity. So now I have good contact. I think it's the first part. I think that's the first thing you should check. You don't have power, well, you're not going to go very far. By the same token, it's the original power cord, which is still good. Nothing's broken, but it's not as flexible. At this point, I don't think I'll be changing it or putting in a ground to the chassis, although I might do it eventually. But first, I'll try to get it to start. And as you can see, I cleaned the plug, the contacts. So they were also so gummed up. I had very, very poor continuity, a lot of resistance. And from this point on, I'll just take the chassis out. If I have to, if I don't have enough room to work with those speaker wires, I just might have to unsolder or snip some of them to have enough room to work. But I should be able to take it out, enough for the second part of the cleaning, I should say. So basically that's it. Doesn't look too complex at this point, but it's mostly, the problem is usually, accessing everything you need. If you can't access a point to unsolder something, it's really hard. Sometimes you have to remove parts to access different components, and that's when it gets complicated. So I can see the board doesn't seem to be screwed on. It's just held by tabs here. It's been folded in on each side. That seems to be the working principle. So, hey, we'll see. A lot of dust is left inside, and I can tell you it really doesn't smell good. It doesn't smell like cigarette anymore, but it's probably a mix of some residual smell of cigarette mixed with different odors from the house, from the cleaning liquids that were used and stuff like that. It's a very weird odor. So I can't wait to clean the cabinet inside, give it another coat of paint, and probably put it in a bag and put a few mothballs for a couple of days to get rid of the odor. Because I don't want to change the grill cloth. They're whole, they're complete, not really super clean inside. Maybe I can vacuum some of the dust. The problem is you don't want to get it wet on either side, because that's when you start to get stain. And I can live with a little dust inside, but I would be very mad if I would stain the grill cloth in any way. You can probably have them made, reproductions probably, but it's usually very expensive to have them custom made. So okay, now I get it out. Wish me luck. Okay, so we're back. I managed to pull the chassis out. Wasn't that bad actually. Maybe it took me an hour because I took really my time. And I'm going to try to show you the inside. It is absolutely filthy. Absolutely. I found a little plastic part that I think will explain why this thing broke. A little tab that goes actually inside the wood to keep it in place, to register it in place. And that broke off. So it's really a tiny, tiny part. I think I have it here on the bench. So I don't know if I'll be able to fix that or put a new part in. Next thing I did was to clean the wires. So I really see the exact colors, although it's faded. On this one it's green, gray, and yellow. And I have blue, red, and white. Red, white, and blue here. Yeah. So I'll see what I'll do. I was thinking of maybe putting some speed connectors on for the future. Not too sure. For the time being, I just got to check inside if there's any plastic or metal part that came off of something. Once I've determined that, I'll just put the shop vac to it. And then once the wires are severed, I'll be able to put it in the chassis, or in the chassis holder right here. I need this. And start working on it. Cleaning and replacing parts and testing before. One thing that's interesting, I'm surprised where they put the selenium rectifier. It's right in here inside, just beside, beneath the plate glass. So it's right there. Right next to the Magic Eye, the EM84. Inside there somewhere. So should be easy to remove. Only 2 screws. Maybe I'll be able to replace it with one of Emmanuel's boards if the spacing is right. Otherwise I'll have to find another solution if I go along with replacing the selenium rectifier, which I think I might do though. And to think of it, once it's all opened like that, you know, how often is it going to be all ready to work on? So stand by for the next part. So it's the next day, and after some reflection overnight, this is what I decided to do. So this is the plan for today. As I've showed you, the chassis is out of the cabinet already, and the plan will be to sever the connections to the electrostatic speakers and the regular speakers. There's 6 wires in all, and I will put some quick disconnect those connectors, so I never have to solder and unsolder something, any of those wires again. Once that is done, I will continue working on the interior of the cabinet, because I want to have this done and get rid of the stench. It really doesn't smell good. Some of the odor also is coming from the chassis. So the plan is to clean everything, repaint the interior, dust it off again, and disinfect it as much as I can. And once it's painted over and it's dry, I'll use some mothballs just to try and get rid of the odor. I'll put the whole cabinet in a garbage bag or something and just have it sit there for a day or two. Also, have some of this rubber foam. It's actually just a stick-on tape, which was about the right thickness. The problem is, all around here there was a gasket. There was this foam gasket, and I don't have to tell you, there's not much left. It's all dried up, and this is actually causing an issue. What I've seen, and I'll show you this later, but remember those 2 buttons for the treble and the bass? Well, if there's no pressure on the plate from that foam, they just rub against. It's more obvious on the bass side. that's why it rubs, because it should be, pushed in about a millimeter, so it clears it. So that's an actual problem. It's not just aesthetic. Okay, so once I'm done with that, I'll start probably tomorrow or the day after. I'll start working on the cabinet, and not the cabinet, but the chassis. And I also want to disinfect it for the job. I wanted one for a while. I got this little cheap, not very powerful airbrush, which I'm going to fill. I've seen Manuel do it, and it really seems to work. Fill it with alcohol, and just after a first dust off, just clean everything. Try to disinfect all the parts, remove all of the dust using the airbrush, cotton swabs, rags, whatever it takes. I want it to smell good, to look good, and I want to be able to identify all the parts easily. As it stands now, most areas I can't even tell what's what and what's going on with that. Some people will do this at the end. I can't. So I'll show you the progress later. Okay, first part done. I've severed all the wires, and I'm sorry. Like you can see, I made the cut at a different length, so all the connectors, once connected together, won't see each other. They won't be touching. Although I'll put some heat shrink when I'm ready at the very end. So now I'm going to move the radio, the chassis away, and start working again on the cabinet. I want to have this done first because there's less work than starting the electronics, and I'm waiting for parts anyways. So while the cabinet is going to be drying, I'll be able to start cleaning the chassis. I'll be right back.